Parting company, Gambia pulls out from the Commonwealth, citing break from neocolonialism. Nightmare in Mogadishu. We revisit the day American troops were forced to retreat from Somali nation. And culture and technology, how a new application is widening access to Nigeria's local languages. It is 1 p.m. in East Africa. You're watching Africa Live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Penina Karibe in Nairobi. Coming up this half hour, the IMF's prescription to South Africa slowing economic growth. And playoff fears, why Ghana's Football Association is wary ahead of tie with Egypt. We begin in West Africa with reports of Gambia pulling out of the Commonwealth. The announcement on state television by President Yahya Jammeh branded the grouping made up of former British colonies as a neo-colonial institution. Gambia now becomes the second country after Zimbabwe to withdraw from the 54-member grouping. CCTV's Jean Keo reports.
It may be described as a sudden and surprise announcement, but for a president not new to controversy, the decision to withdraw Gambia from the Commonwealth may not be so shocking. The statement by President Yahya Jammeh broadcast on state TV said the government has withdrawn its membership of the British Commonwealth and decided that the Gambia will never be a member of any neo-colonial institution and will never be a party to any institution that represents an extension of colonialism. The general public is hereby informed that the government of the Gambia has left the Commonwealth of Nations with immediate effect. However, government officials is said to have told AFP news agency that the decision was made after the government disagreed with a 2012 proposal by the Commonwealth to create commissions in the Gambian capital of Banjul to address human rights, media rights and corruption. The UK's Foreign Office only responded by saying the decision on Commonwealth membership are a matter for each member government. We would very much regret Gambia or any other country deciding to leave the Commonwealth. Gambia now joins Zimbabwe out of the Commonwealth. It withdrew in 2003. Now, this is one of the latest outbursts by President Jammeh, who claims to have personally discovered a cure for AIDS. The man, who prefers to be called His Excellency Sheikh Professor Dr. President, has ruled the tiny West African nation since 1994. He seized power as a 29-year-old lieutenant. Jean Keo, CCTV.
Now, the Republic of Gambia is one of Africa's smallest countries, and unlike many of its West African neighbors, it has enjoyed long spells of stability since independence. Gambia gained its independence from the UK in 1965. It joined a short-lived federation of Senegambia with Senegal between 1982 and 1989. In 1991, the two nations signed a friendship and cooperation treaty. Current President Yahya Jammeh seized power in a bloodless coup in 1994 and has ruled with an iron fist ever since. The country's political stability has not translated into prosperity for many citizens, though. Gambia has few natural resources and is highly dependent on peanut export. President Jammeh wants to turn the Gambia into an oil-producing state. He says this could usher in a new future. However, the country has yet to strike crude oil. Tourism is an important source of foreign exchange, as is the money sent home by Gambians living abroad. Most visitors are drawn to the resorts that occupy a stretch of the Atlantic coast. Now let's come to Somalia. This Thursday marks the 20th anniversary of the Battle of Mogadishu, commonly referred to as the Black Hawk Down incident. On October 3, 1993, a U.S. Army force in Mogadishu attempted to capture a warlord during a meeting in the city. Shortly after the assault began, Somali militia and armed civilian fighters managed to shoot down 2 Black Hawk helicopters. The subsequent rescue operation to secure and recover the crews of both helicopters drew the raid, intended to last no more than an hour, into an overnight standoff in the city. The battle resulted in the death of 18 soldiers and dozens of Somalis. The incident prompted the U.S. to withdraw from Somalia. Joining us now is CCTV's Mohammed here, live from Mogadishu. Mohammed, good to have you with us. It's been 20 years now. Why did Somalis reject the Americans' intervention?
Penina, the American intervention first came almost 1 year after the overthrow of former President Mohamed Siad Barre in 1991. It was at the height of the Civil War in 1992. Then there came a drought and famine that struck and caused a very serious humanitarian crisis. Then the United States launched what it called Operation Restore Hope with the approval of the United Nations, which was in fact to pacify the city Mogadishu and allow the access of humanitarian intervention in the city. But not all Somalis rejected the American intervention, the Operation Restore Hope. It was only one faction of the militia led by a very strong warlord, then General Mohammed Farah Aidid, that rejected the U.S. intervention. And after Aidid's militia rejected that, the United States then launched a second operation they called the Operation Gothic Serpent, which was just to seize and capture General Mohammed Farah Aidid. Then that degenerated into some warfare between the United States and Aidid's militia, which culminated in the infamous Black Hawk Down, where 2 Black Hawk helicopters have been shot and over 18 American soldiers were killed.
So, Mohammed, do you think this particular incident complicated the civil strife in Somalia then and for the years to come?
Well, Penina, analysts will say yes, because analysts will say ever since American withdrawal, the world didn't get concerned with Somalia for so long, after 20 years. And we also understand there was no political intervention. In 1995, again, the remaining UN peacekeeping missions withdrew. And we understand since 1995, the capital was divided into enclaves ruled by clan militia, up to 2006, when the Islamic Courts Union then drove all the Islamic militia, all the clan warlords, and restored some semblance of order before again the intervention of Ethiopian forces, which invaded Mogadishu and again cleared the Islamists from the town. I mean, most analysts will argue that the withdrawal of the United States and the subsequent withdrawal of the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Somalia further worsened the crisis and drove the warring parties apart. Besides, most analysts argue that after the Black Hawk incidents, the Aidid militia felt they were successful. If after all they can defeat the United States machinery, the United States soldiers, highly trained, they believed that they will be quite invincible, and that degenerated the whole civil war into some kind of a macabre scene, and Mogadishu overnight became battleground for so long until maybe late 2007, when the African Union peacekeeping efforts restored some stability and pacified the city and some other regions of the country.
All right, Mohammed Hirmoge there live for us from Mogadishu. Thanks, Mohammed, for those insights. Now, as we told you earlier, Gambia has pulled out of the Commonwealth. The announcement on state television by President Yahya Jammeh branded the grouping made up of former British colonies as a neo-colonial institution. We now get the perspective from London. Richard Bestick joins us on the line from there. So, Richard, has there been any response from the Commonwealth office?
There's been no response either from the Commonwealth Office or from the British Foreign Office. The Foreign Office saying only that the members of the Commonwealth, their membership is a matter for each member government, although it would very much regret Gambia's departure or that of any other country deciding to leave the Commonwealth. It is a decision for them. So no response from the British government, but it's no secret that relations between the British government and that of Gambia have been tense for a while, particularly on Gambia's civil rights record. The British government has been very vocal, and it was very vocal on the shooting by firing squad, the killing by firing squad of death row prisoners last year, when the Foreign Office came out strongly in favor of it. It's certainly an unusual move because it's the last time this happened was Zimbabwe and Robert Mugabe's departure from the Commonwealth. But certainly since then, 2 other nations have joined, so more are joining than leaving, it would seem.
All right, Richard Bestick there on the line for us. in London. Thank you, Richard, for joining us. It's 10 minutes into the hour. You're watching Africa Live. Let's take a break coming up. Culture and technology, how a new application is widening access to Nigeria's local languages. An art exhibition displaying portraits of Nelson Mandela and images inspired by his life's work has opened in London. The contributing artists range from those who used their talents in the fight against apartheid to Britain's foremost royal portrait artist. Richard Bestick reports from London.
Encapsulated in a single room, images of a revolutionary whose power extends around the world. Among the works, images ranging from simple to sophisticated, including the famous work by Britain's premier royal portrait artist, Richard Stone. Stone's painted all the members of the UK royal family, but says the commission for Mandela was the most daunting.
I've been fortunate enough to paint many famous people, but I don't think anyone as famous as Mr. Mandela. His face is a brand, if you want. And people globally love him.
Among the works, only a few reminders of the 27 years the ANC leader languished in jail. But for a man famous for his common touch, apparently incongruous images of the 97-year-old complete with halo, the religious theme for a man revered never far away. The international launch in London begins a world tour.
Well, isn't that an obvious place? First of all, they love Mandela in London. He has celebrated his 90th birthday. I think there was the biggest party here in London, and you'll see quite a few of the images here with London incorporated into it. London was very important.
Those in the British capital working in Mandela's charities say the exhibition offers a moment for reflection.
He wants his charities to be his legacy and to continue to survive beyond his lifetime. So an opportunity like this, where there's so much interest, will help us reach out to lots and lots of people and therefore realise his dreams.
The exhibition, of course, is a celebration of Nelson Mandela's life and the works associated with it. However, there's an unspoken reality here. The start of the show had to be delayed twice because of his ill health. Richard Bestick, CCTV, London.
In other news, across the continent, an armed mob broke into the Russian embassy compound in the Libyan capital Tripoli on Wednesday after a Russian woman was accused of killing a Libyan Air Force pilot. Libyan authorities apprehended the Russian woman, accusing her of killing the pilot, then writing offensive graffiti with his blood. Libyan officials say one of the attackers was killed by random gunfire. 4 others were wounded. The Russian Foreign Ministry confirmed the attack, but said none of the embassy staff was wounded. Elsewhere, the party of Guinean President Alpha Condé has taken an early lead, according to the first result from weekend legislative polls published by the Elections Commission late on Wednesday. Condé's RPG party beat out the UFDG of his main opposition rival in the city of Freya. The ruling party also defeated the UFDG and the UFR, another opposition formation in the Kindia region. Saturday's vote was preceded by months of political maneuvering and violent protests, and the opposition has warned it would not tolerate any attempt to rig the vote. And finally, Mali's government freed 23 rebel prisoners on Wednesday and the terms of a June ceasefire deal in an effort to revive a stalled peace process. This is after Tuareg separatists pulled out last week. Justice Minister Ali Bathily said the government hoped the release of the rebel prisoners would help calm the situation. Prosecutors ordered the arrest of this year of dozens of Tuareg and Islamist insurgents who seized the north of Mali last year. Violence has flared in northern Mali since the MNLA rebel group abandoned the ceasefire on Thursday. Now, Nigeria is known for its diverse cultures and languages, which include Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, and Fulani. However, urban families have been increasingly feeling the need to speak international languages. To try and bridge the gap, Genie Games, a tech startup, has come up with a way of using technology to tell traditional stories as well as teach young children more about the language and culture. CCTV's Maria Galang tells us more.
At Nigeria's Charles Laurie's French Academy in Lagos, these students are going through a new learning experience. They are trying to master local languages. Tech startup Genie Games has now created a language teaching ASA application, which comes complete with animation, voice and a virtual classroom, meant to appeal to young minds. The app comes in Yoruba, Igbo and Hausa, the country's 3 main languages.
I learnt Igbo, Nemugara Asha. My mother went to the market.
I learnt Yoruba, Shibi spoon, Laba Laba butterfly, Malum.
The app comes at a time when globalization aspects are gaining root across the continent. English is the national language of Nigeria. As a result, a gradual decline is being seen for over 500 native languages that exist across the country.
Our focus is on culture, so with respect to how, with respect to kids not being interested in learning about culture or knowing, little or nothing about their culture, we think that we're making a contribution, in our own little ways as to, them getting a grasp of, where they come from, identifying with their roots, and regaining their cultural identity.
The app was created at a cost of about $10,000 US. It has so far been accepted by some schools located in upmarket Lagos suburbs. Schools interested in starting the program are required to have smartphones and tablets, which are used as tools for the course.
This is what we've been crying out for. We've been crying that our children, that our culture are fast eroding. Our children don't know our culture. If I probably ask you some folk tales, you may not be able to tell me. And then how do we pass it on to generations? The fact that it's going to be accepted is not questionable.
With over 10,000 ASA app downloads so far, Adebayo says more development efforts will be put into releasing more culturally oriented apps to cater for Nigeria's diverse and rich culture. Maria Galang, CCTV.
You're watching Biz Africa Live, coming up on Biz Africa. The IMF's prescription to South Africa's slowing economic growth will bring you the details next. Right, so South Africa faces slow growth, widespread unemployment and a high reliance on foreign capital inflows. The weak global economic outlook is not helping. The IMF, however, says that with planned structural reforms, Africa's largest economy should boost growth and create jobs for its growing population. CCTV's Jitu Abraham with that story.
Analysts say South Africa's economy is already suffering from slow growth and high unemployment, further weighed down by weak growth in its main global trading partners, Europe and the U.S. The IMF projects growth to slow further to 2% in 2013. This is from 2.5% in 2012. This is reflective of global factors as well as a softer private consumption growth and sluggish private investment. South Africa's growth should pick up 3 to 3.5% in the coming years as global economy recovers and the government's infrastructure drive is realized.
Actually, a lot of jobs have been created in the South African economy. If you take the most recent data, between March and June of this year, 100,000 jobs were created, but 200,000 people entered the labor force. That's the reason why unemployment is still high.
In a review of Africa's largest economy, the IMF forecasts that continuing with planned structural reforms will both grow and create jobs for the growing population. South Africa's government is constructing the National Development Plan 2030, which aims to eliminate poverty and reduce inequalities. According to the plan, South Africa can realize these goals by drawing on the energies of its people, growing an inclusive economy, building capabilities, enhancing the capacity of the state, and promoting leadership and partnership throughout the society.
Let me give you some numbers. Amongst the people who have education below grade 12, unemployment is over 30%. But for graduates, it's about 5%. So skills and education really make a huge difference. The government is spending a lot of money on education. Out of every 100 rands, it's spent about a quarter in education. That's high by international standards. The challenge, of course, is to make sure that the students come out of the schools with the skills that are needed for the jobs.
The education goal still remains the focus of those looking for long-term economic growth solutions for the country, making sure students are given the education and skill training currently in demand.
The bulk of government spending goes into education, health, social assistance. More than half of South African households now receive social assistance from the government. Another important part, about a third, goes to paying public employees, people like firemen, nurses, and teachers.
Workers are currently striking at the Anglo-American Platinum, the world's top platinum producer, in protest of job cuts. A strike last week in the auto parts sector, making it difficult for automakers to build cars, is still going on. G2 Abraham, CCTV.
And staying in South Africa, Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan has admitted that the financial services sector did not, for a long time, assist black investment professionals to reach their full potential. He also told the Association of Black Securities and Investment Professionals Conference that black ownership of companies listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange was not optimal. South Africa embarked on a black economic empowerment program to rid itself of its apartheid past and lift the majority black population from poverty, but this has not attained the success it was intended.
I think we have a clear picture of the broad-based ownership that we have on the JSE. But clearly, we need to move to a different form of engagement in the economy between established business and aspirant businesses, between small businesses and bigger businesses, in order that we create space for more firms to be created.
And I'll look at how markets that we track here performed in early trade this Thursday. The Nigerian All Share Index added 0.88%. The JSE are in the green so far with almost about 0.25%. The Nairobi Securities Exchange also in the green with slightly above 0.5%. And the AGX so far in the red with 0.46%. Well, let's take another break. Coming up, player fears why Ghana's Football Association is wary ahead of tie with Egypt. To sports now, and Ghana's Football Association has officially asked for their World Cup playoff tie with Egypt to be moved away from Cairo. Ghana officials have concerns for their players' safety, citing the recent political upheaval in the country, coupled with last year's deadly football riots in Egypt. They have called on FIFA to look at the issue, as CCTV's Dan Williams reports.
All smiles on the Soccer X stage, but Ghana FA President Kwesi Nantashi is a concerned man. That's because, as it stands, next month Ghana will become the first team to play in Cairo since 2011, when they play Egypt in their World Cup qualifier. Not only is a place in Brazil riding on the match, the Ghana delegation are concerned for their players' safety and they want FIFA to get involved.
It's a huge concern that this time round an apparent security threat has been ignored, in favor of getting the crowd to mass up at the stadium. We don't decide where matches are played for our opponent, but we think it should be played in a secure, congenial, safe environment for both teams.
Whatever happens, Ghana know they are in for a tough encounter with Egypt, who, let's not forget, are the continent's most successful football nation, having won the African Cup of Nations 7 times. Added to that, the Ghana FA believes the recent troubles in Egypt will only give their opponents more motivation.
We reckon that the domestic and political problems in Egypt could rather spur them on to do their best, and we are very mindful of that. We are preparing our team. We are preparing the team, bearing in mind that Egypt is a very formidable side. We respect them highly for their successes at the African Cup of Nations and their previous World Cups. And we are just approaching the game like going for a World Cup finals.
Well, this is where Ghana's World Cup 2010 dream came to an end when they were beaten by Uruguay in the quarter-finals. And although it's premature to talk about success at Brazil 2014, the Ghana FA feel the current team are now more experienced and they can once again light up the tournament.
At least a step beyond what we did in South Africa. We should be able to get to the quarter-finals without Suarez, move to semi-finals, at least, and then possibly get to the finals.
But that's all racing on, and if Egypt get their way, Ghana won't even make it onto the plane to Brazil. Dan Williams, CCTV, Johannesburg.
Just like many other African nations, Nigeria has had little space for any sport other than soccer. However, with events like the 2012 Olympics that raised the international level of consciousness about Nigeria's basketball program, the country's basketball dreams are set to grow.
Abiodun Ayetemiyi was meant to follow his father and pursue medicine in Nigeria. He found a different path one morning only 7 years ago. He was playing football when he came across another ball, a big orange one that would change his life and his father's mind.
I know very soon I'm going to be known everywhere, not just my country. Because in my country now I'm known as one of the best rookies that is coming up.
The 16-year-old's natural speed and athleticism now have him pursuing basketball stardom, a dream that is becoming more achievable in a country that produced one of the NBA's greatest, Hakeem Olajuwon. Ayetemiyi is already being molded by the best and is among a new generation ready to ride the momentum the basketball is gaining in Nigeria.
My dream is to play overseas. Where if you see a young kid in the country like me, what's his first aim? We tell you like, his first aim will tell you like, I want to go overseas to play, not in the country. But if you can have a good sponsor in the country league and other program in the game, most people won't want to go overseas to play. They want to play in the country because there's nothing like playing in your country.
Nigeria's basketball greats consider it a privilege and obligation to give back to the country that raised them. Hakeem Olajuwon, the 2-time NBA champion and 12-time All-Star with the Houston Rockets. More recently, there has been former Seattle Supersonics and Orlando Magic center Olumide Oyedije and Toronto Raptors general manager Masai Ujiri, also Nigerian.
I want to, see how I can help them. I want to see what can be done to make their life better because try to give them life, hope, and future. And basketball already gave me life, give me hope, give me future, and make me secure in life.
Every time I came here, I was impressed by the potential, the size, the athleticism, and the strength of the players. The one thing I knew was lacking was the skills. A lot of players were not polished yet. A lot of players lacked game experience. A lot of players lacked good coaching. And so that's why this job was attractive to me because I felt like, this was a good opportunity for me to share my knowledge, all the knowledge that I've acquired in the US with these young players in Nigeria.
With live NBA games also set to be beamed into the country next season, there are hopes that the next few years could see basketball establish deep roots in Nigeria. Lutunebu, CCTV.
And that is on Africa Live. Thanks for watching. I'm Penina Karibe. I'll see you at 1700 GMT.